around the nation. TYT Nation, Jeff Waldorf here. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's Friday. So we're going to have a good show for you guys today. A little bit of fun stuff. Making fun of Meghan McCain. She's in it again. And Rudy Giuliani. So we got two different types of crazy in one single show. So it should be a lot of fun there. We've got that. Then we're also going to talk about Bernie Sanders. His campaign hit a very, very important milestone. Kind of awesome. So really going to enjoy that. And then we've got Donald Trump being stupid when it comes to coal. And fun times for everybody. So those are the major stories that we got today. Serious stuff, of course, related to the Giuliani story, including what the whole whistleblower thing might be about. And it's not good. So we're learning a little bit more than we knew before. So, and of course, disastrous. Before I get to the show, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Helps out the show greatly. Speaking of helping out the show, I want to thank some patrons, patreon.com/TYTNation for keeping us afloat. So I want to shout out these people who are our $5 members. Discaphage, Dorian Michael Sanchez, Ellen Beauclair, Aaron Pimentel, Farzad Mansouri, Floyd Jane Hicks, and Gary Steelman. So thank you to those people for supporting independent progressive media. You want to join Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation. That's how you do it. Or you can become a channel member as well. Get an emoji or a little TYT Nation badge next to your name on YouTube. And you also get the benefit of course, me reading your comments first. So that's kind of awesome. That's fun. All right. So thank you to those people for supporting TYT Nation. I think that's about it. I think we should just kind of dive right in. All right. Let's do it.
Why would I give the enemy the documents?
Now
You
I'm the
are
enemy.
not fair.
Now
you are
I'm
not
the enemy.
impartial.
Great.
You
Rudy,
are totally
anything else?
biased, and your network is a creature of the Democratic National Committee.
Well, that was Rudy Giuliani in the midst of what appeared to be a gigantic meltdown on CNN's Cuomo primetime. So now, this moment happened during a discussion about the whistleblower. So yesterday, news broke, whistleblower in the intelligence community filed a complaint that the president might have made a promise of what we later found out, or at least we're speculating to be, the promise of military aid to the president of Ukraine in order to get dirt on his political opponent, which would happen to be Joe Biden. Yikes. That's concerning. Now, for some reason, during this discussion, or I should say before, they decided to have on Rudy Giuliani to defend Donald Trump. And of course, it went the way that he would expect it to go. Let me give you some more of the conversation. This was a very long conversation. It was a very long interview. But I basically had to condense this thing down to where we wouldn't spend the rest of the show watching it. So why don't you take a look at some of the highlights?
I don't know the answer to why it was released, but I find nothing wrong in what he did. I find
You
a
don't
lot
even know
wrong.
what he did.
I find a lot wrong in what you are covering up,
believe
and
me,
what you
I'm well
continue
aware.
to cover up, and what your network continues to cover up.
And I'm telling
which
you,
will
you
make
give me
what-
proof of what you found.
I have
will
proof.
vet it and put it in and give it to me.
Go look at Joe Biden garbage.
No matter what I hear
Completely
tonight
not
after this
true.
interview,
and you are now
Yeah. What am I
engaging
now?
in all kinds of
What
fantasies
am I now?
about the president when there's clear proof about a Democrat and you can't handle it. And how about we go to China when he flew his son there on Air Force Two?
Listen,
and 8 days
Rudy,
later, the
I don't
son
know what
got
any of this
1
has
point.
to do with what I've been asking you about
What it
tonight.
has to do
I gotta
with
be
how
honest.
unfair you are. Do you get
It's
that?
unfair for me to
It's
not want to
unfair.
tolerate you talking about Joe Biden all night long when we have an inspector general fighting with the DNI, fighting with Congress over a whistleblower complaint that involves this president
So we have an
and
anonymous
you
whistleblower
and what you've been
complaint.
doing
We
playing
have an
with Ukraine.
anonymous whistleblower compared to
All right. I gotta
clear proof that Biden's son got $1.5 billion from China, and you won't cover it. Tell me you're not unfair.
Rudy, I told you.
Nobody buys that, Chris. That's why your
But
network
I'm
has
sure
no
they
ratings.
buy. I'm sure they buy.
They
that
buy the
everything
fact
you're
that you
saying
are in
right
the
now
tank
has
for the
nothing to
Democratic
do
Party.
with distracting from what this president's
I am not
problems
distracting.
might be. I hear
and
you.
you covered up so much more about Hillary.
I'm covering
It's
it up
disgusting.
so much that I've kept this interview going 28 minutes and let you say it a dozen
and
times.
interrupted me
That's how
500
afraid of it I am.
times to try to
Well,
stop
you've
me
made
from
2
telling the
points.
American people
You've
what's
made 2
actually
points.
going on,
You've
so
made
you
2
can
points.
continue to mislead them, which
All
is
right.
what you're doing.
All right, well, you've been here the whole time, so you're part of it now. You're
I'm
co-conspirator.
not part of misleading.
Rudy
Everything I
Giuliani,
said I can document.
Thank you.
Every
give it to
single
me.
thing I said
then
I can
give
document.
me the documents. Thank you.
I'm not going to give you the documents. Why would I give you the documents?
Because you want
You're not
the truth
going to
to come
use
out.
them for a
You're
good
not making
purpose.
any sense to me
If
on
I
this point.
trusted you, of course I'm making sense.
Now you don't trust me either. All right, Rudy Giuliani.
Why would I give the enemy the documents?
Oh, now I'm
you
the
are
enemy.
not fair.
Now
you are
I'm
not
the enemy.
impartial.
Great.
You
Rudy,
are totally
anything else?
biased, and your network is a creature of the Democratic National Committee.
All right. So that happened. A few things to dissect here. So, for one, okay, this is a discussion about Donald Trump, not Joe Biden. I know the reason that he brings up Joe Biden. It's a gigantic deflection because, well, right now, we don't know really the details of the call too much. We do believe that it is Trump trying to get dirt on his possible opponent in general election, Joe Biden. But again, we don't know the specific details of what exactly kind of aid was promised to Ukraine. So, okay. So now when you bring up Ukraine and then Joe Biden, as Giuliani does, he's actually, there's a kernel of truth there. So let me give you the details on this, right? And it's not what it's not what Giuliani is making it out to be. Now, it's been reported, and this is not a new report, as Cuomo points out, that Hunter Biden, that's Joe Biden's son, held a directorship for a Ukrainian gas company while his father was vice president. So now is that a conflict of interest? Well, when you ask policy experts on Ukraine, they agree that Hunter's acceptance of a position did create a conflict of interest for his father. So that's true. There is a conflict of interest, and that's not a good thing, right? Now, Biden also urged Ukraine to fire its top prosecutor. Now, that was his father, right? With the threat of withholding U.S. aid. However, that happened to be the position of the entire U.S. government at the time, as well as other international institutions. So you can't really tie it back to just Biden looking out for his son himself. There's no actual evidence that Biden did that solely to enrich himself or his son. Any benefit, which we don't know if there was any benefit, would have been purely coincidence. It's not even clear that the company was actively under investigation and that the change of prosecutors would have benefited that company anyway. So those are some very key points to remember, right? Not at all what Rudy Giuliani is making it out to be. Oh, the $1.5 billion Ukraine. Let's look over there. Squirrel. Ignore what President Trump did, and let's argue over this. And then I'm going to attack the news, fake news, right? So yeah. Now, a couple more points on Biden, real quick here. Lincoln Mitchell, an adjunct research scholar at Columbia University, said, quote, "It's not a crime when it comes to Biden, right? But it's a lapse and it's troubling." So do you want to look into that? Should we look into that? Yeah, maybe we should. You know what? It'd be fair to launch an investigation. In fact, the Trump administration, interestingly enough, has refused to launch an investigation into that. Huh. What now? If that's a big talking point, why isn't the Trump administration looking into it? The Ukrainian government is saying, please come look into it, Trump administration. But so far, you've not. Well, that's curious. Yes, curious indeed. something tells me that it's basically deflection or talking point. Again, as usual, you're going to have establishment Democrats doing shady things, having shady deals. But hey, at least it's not like the Trump administration, which literally does illegal things. And by illegal things, of course, I mean obstruction of justice. During the Mueller report, we have about 10 counts of obstructions. You have the violations of the emoluments clause, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Rudy Giuliani has literally no leg to stand on here. And all he can do is rant and rave and deflect and call CNN the enemy. Why would I give the documents to the enemy? Look, I got issues with CNN. I got issues with Chris Cuomo, right? And, of course, old establishment media. That said, the key difference here is I'm not calling them the enemy. They're not the enemy. They're not the fake news media. They have a perspective. That perspective is the establishment. And so they will represent establishment interests. That's why we have independent progressive media to actually represent the people. That's why it's important that we have people on YouTube that are actually representing regular people and not people that are, again, no big offense to Chris Cuomo here, but he's a millionaire and he generally represents his own class interests. And then again, to be fair to him as well, he has been bringing on some progressives as of late, and that's always a good sign to make their case. So, look, if you want to make a case about, Joe Biden and conflicts of interest, that's fine. But just make sure your own house is clean before you start throwing stones at someone else's. And Rudy and Trump, well, they just can't do that because their house is dirtier than ever. Okay. All right. So let's get to some of the internet reaction to this, which is always fun, of course. Users on social media were a bit aghast at the recent insane interview that Chris Cuomo had with Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani. Now, after that insane interview, and I showed it in another video, you can watch it in context, there was some discussion about the former mayor and his mental well-being. People are saying, he's not quite there. Now, let me give you some examples here. Now, Tom Nichols said Rudy's performance on CNN just now was a level of pinch hitting rarely seen on national television. Now, in that interview, he kept going back to, but Biden, Ukraine, Biden, China. Look at that. You're so unfair, 100% unfair, and fake news. Yeah, okay. You're the enemy. He even called Chris Cuomo the enemy. When Cuomo said, okay, look, you've got these allegations against Biden, not a news story. Give us the documents. Prove. Give us proof. And trust me, I'm not a Biden defender. What Hunter Biden did was, at most, unethical and a conflict of interest when it comes to his father, but nothing illegal, right? We're looking at Donald Trump and possible illegality in trying to dig up dirt on a presidential candidate using the military, using aid as a promise. I mean, that's craziness. There's more. Anna Navarro, who, by the way, got Meghan McCain to walk off The View today. That's a fun story. Said this: in an attempt to distract us from the very serious whistleblower claims, the Trump administration sent Rudy out to act completely bonkers on national TV and also told us Stephen Miller's dating someone. And she made sure to point out that person was not an inflatable person. Yeah, I completely missed the Stephen Miller story. Because, for one, I don't care that, who he's dating, or if she has possible brain damage. I don't know. Who knows, right? But anyway, Elise Jordan said if Rudy Giuliani's family loves him, they will get him help now, not tomorrow. Now. I agree. Sam Stein, writer for the Huffington Post, says at this point, you could probably just make up some crazy stuff about what Rudy did on CNN and folks would believe it. Again, That's true. YS said, congratulations to Giuliani for being the first person to ever shit his pants live on TV. Fun. Nikki said, I can't believe I ever supported Rudy Giuliani running for president back in 2007. Nobody has gone so downhill as Rudy. At some point, he lost his entire mind. The raving pro-Trump lunatic having a meltdown on CNN tonight is a total disgrace. Now, it sounds like that somebody was a Republican, right? And this is the thing about Trump Republicans. They're so bad that they turn off regular Republicans. And that's insane. Absolute insanity. But look, this is what happens when there is power and you want power and you are deeply corrupt and do anything to get power. He has cast his lot with President Trump, and he's got nowhere to go but down. A couple more here. Rick Tyler said, Giuliani is the new Alex Jones. Sad. Very, very sad. And Joe Lockhart said, breaking news. Rudy Giuliani has lost his mind and makes Corey Lewandowski seem like a calm truth teller. Again, awesome. So that's just some of the reaction. Not a good look for Giuliani, obviously, or Donald Trump. Again, if you haven't seen the video, Giuliani defends Trump by going after Biden and attacking Cuomo in saying that he's the enemy, right? Clear deflection because of what Trump might have done. If it's true that he promised military aid to Ukraine in order to get dirt on Joe Biden, then look, that might end up getting Trump into some trouble. Then again, we just had an investigation, the Mueller report, the Mueller investigation, about something essentially similar, and he didn't get in trouble. So who knows, right? But the way that they're acting, the way the Trump administration is dealing with this issue, shows that they're at least somewhat worried about a second investigation or even a special counsel. So we'll have to see what happens. But, oh boy, bad look. All right. Moving on here. Now, Meghan McCain is still a little bit salty after she got her ass handed to her by Pamela Anderson over the issue of Julian Assange. And so what she did today during a discussion where Trump had allegedly offered U.S. military aid to Ukraine in exchange for damaging information against Joe Biden, she did what she does best, makes the story about her. Take a look.
Well, Abby, you and I were struggling with the same thing, but this is what I do know. We had Pamela Anderson on a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and I took her to task about Julian Assange. And there's a lot of liberals who are okay with Julian Assange releasing Hillary's emails. Okay, he's a, quote, whistleblower. I called him a cyber terrorist. And now at the same time, those same people are screaming bloody murder about this situation right now, about this whistleblower. I think all interference from a foreign country in our election, all of it is bad and should be condemned. And you can't play party politics with this. And there's a lot of people on the left who are doing that
so
with
who
Julian
are you mad
Assange.
at here? Are you mad at the whistleblower? I'm asking a question.
I'm mad that there are people on the left that think that Julian Assange is okay, that he's some kind of patriot whistleblower when he did interfere in our election. You can see all the emails that he released.
I'm on the left. I don't agree with that at all.
All right, so that's Meghan McCain, right? So okay, let's get to the substance here before I make fun of her. So WikiLeaks, when they released those emails, they were acting as a journalistic outlet. That was in the public interest. And so, I don't remember her getting mad at the release of the emails before she got, of course, destroyed by Pamela Anderson, which is a funny thing to say. But anyway, so now the real interference was, of course, the Russians, right? So the Russians basically, allegedly, presumably hacked the DNC. they gave the emails to WikiLeaks in the hopes that WikiLeaks would do what they usually do, release information that embarrasses world leaders. That's why we like WikiLeaks. That's why I supported WikiLeaks, right? Because they do go after powerful people. In this case, it happened to be Hillary Clinton before it happened to be the Obama administration. So no problem with that, right? So I'm guessing that I'm the type of person that Meghan McCain is really angry at, because I am making a big deal about this whistleblower. I should say the information that this whistleblower may have. So, okay, well, you want to get mad, you want to stay, get all salty about this. Okay, well, we can do that. I'll get salty too. Okay. So now here's the thing. Going back to WikiLeaks and what Assange had done, right? Now, did that end up playing in the hands of the people that didn't want to see Hillary Clinton win the election? Yeah, of course, right? That was the whole purpose of hacking the DNC and giving the emails to WikiLeaks. Because they knew WikiLeaks, and they've done this before, would release that information. So it did play into their hands, right? But see, that's the political ramifications, right? Now, that said, did it have a gigantic effect? Not necessarily. Because look, these emails were in the public interest, yes. And the reason that I said they were in the public interest, because we learned about the process and how the establishment really defends itself against upstart candidates. We also learned about CNN and Donna Brazil, giving questions ahead of time to Hillary Clinton's team. We know about that stuff, right? Now, the thing is, did it have a giant impact? I don't think it did. I don't think it swayed a lot of Hillary voters to suddenly turn around for Donald Trump. Okay. I don't think that happened. I think, as I've said before, Hillary Clinton's campaign died a death with 1,000 cuts. And a lot of them happen to be self-inflicted. So some of these things from the outside, the emails, et cetera, what we find in those, the public, the public position versus the private position, that was in the emails. We found out, look, that wasn't like something that somebody invented. That was their team saying Hillary has a public position on banks and a private position on banks. That happens to be much more friendly towards Wall Street. Well, we found that out. That's in the public interest, because then we find out who these people really are and what they actually serve. Okay. So again, considering how the entire election was Hillary Clinton versus the evil that is Donald Trump, right? And that's how the whole thing was framed. There are a lot of Hillary Clinton supporters that still were like, no, we're not going to vote against Hillary Clinton. We're going to vote for Hillary Clinton so we can stop Donald Trump. Now, was that enough? No, because then it goes to the other thing with Trump basically running as an anti-establishment candidate during a time in which the establishment is incredibly unpopular, doing all the wrong things, and not even campaigning in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. So again, death of 1,000 cuts, right? So that's what happened in this election. It wasn't just the fault of the Russians. It wasn't just the fault of WikiLeaks, etc., right? Even though it did play a part in this. So that said, right, when Pamela Anderson came on to defend Assange, and, I agree with her on that, and I think she did an excellent job defending Assange against people like Meghan McCain, who are establishment Republicans, essentially, right? So now McCain is going to go on in this next video. She's going to go and she's basically going to whine about getting owned by Pamela Anderson. Take a look.
I was taken to task by many Bernie supporters who think it's okay, people who have difference of opinions. I believe you in particular, and I don't want to speak for you because I don't remember exactly, but I know that you and I diverged on that issue. And I think all of it has to be condemned all the way around. And I get frustrated when I do that because I think all interference from foreign adversaries in our country is dangerous and should be illegal.
Right.
But there's a lot of people on the left that are okay with Julian Assange, but aren't okay with this whistleblower.
But that's why the whistleblower is a hero in many ways, because he's protecting us from
But Julian
from
Assange released Hillary Clinton's email.
I love how she's suddenly concerned about Hillary Clinton's emails. I don't remember her holding that position during the election when the emails had come out. I'm just saying. I'm just being fair about that. But okay. Here's the thing. So basically, she considers journalistic outlets like WikiLeaks foreign adversaries. Journalists, foreign adversaries. You heard it, man. That's how she feels about that from her mouth. Okay. But look, here's the thing. Nobody likes foreign interference in our elections. In fact, that was one of the big problems with this entire election. And now it's right now a problem with the whistleblowers. That's why we're pointing this out. No one on the left is defending that part of it. What people on the left are defending, at least from my perspective, is journalism that takes on people in power, like them or not, agree with them or not. And I'm talking about Assange. There was a level of journalism in what WikiLeaks had done. Okay. Now, the act of hacking into Hillary Clinton's emails, obviously wrong, but that's not what WikiLeaks had done. It's not their fault. They just had received that information and they released that information whose sole purpose is to release information. And look, here's the thing. They did this with Chelsea Manning, right? Chelsea Manning gave important information to WikiLeaks, which included a collateral murder video that showed our troops killing innocent people in Iraq. You know what happens when you kill innocent people in a foreign country? You create terrorists. That's how you create terrorism. And there's a good chance that and many other acts by some of our troops ended up leading to more violence against our troops. So it's in the public interest for us to know what our military is doing, especially if it's going to turn around and lead to even more terrorism. But you know what? Meghan McCain would call that not whistleblowing, cyber terrorism. Why? Because that's who Meghan McCain is. Protect the establishment, protect the government at all costs, especially when you have a Republican president. I mean, again, I believe that collateral murder video was actually taken during the Bush administration, but the Obama administration, to be fair, they protected that. And they went after Chelsea Manning, obviously, and they've went after Edward Snowden, and they've went after Julian Assange. I mean, Hillary Clinton herself said, I would drone Julian Assange. So you can understand why he would be kind of anti-Hillary. So all that stuff, right? Again, public interest. Substance aside, the whole purpose of this, her little rant, is to basically vent about how she feels really salty about being roasted by Pamela Anderson. Someone who has shown not only she's incredibly intelligent, but she has more smarts than someone like Meghan McCain does, located in her little pinky. And man, McCain can't handle that. Okay. All right. Here's what I'm going to do. We're going to go take a break. We'll come back. I'm going to read some super chats, a super chat that we received. Thank you very much. And we'll read some comments, and then we'll get to more segments, including Trump digs coal. He's on it again, man, about clean coal. So we'll do that segment right after the break. Stay right here, Round the Nation. show. Around the nation right here, Jeff Waldorf here. Okay, so I got some great comments here to say from you guys. But first, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Drum 9781. Thank you so much for the super chat. Definitely appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so comments. Jeanette Villalona says, Giuliani is really losing it, just like Trump. Well, birds of a feather, man. Exactly. Sarge Tech, another member, says, I watched the same clip in Fox News, and they sliced it up to make Rudy look good. Wow. Yeah, man. Look, I didn't want to cut any part out for just to make sure there's content. That was a 3-minute long rant, fight between those two. Kind of hard to do that. I mean, I cut it down to 2 minutes, and that still felt too long. But I think you guys got the point. It's amazing, though, how they just try to make things, look good for people who are obviously mentally not there. Okay. Actus Magus has an interesting take, and I actually do agree with him on this. He said, I'd say Assange is less of a hero compared to Manning and Snowden. Absolutely agree, especially Chelsea Manning. Manning is like the biggest hero here because she took, prison time. She was tortured by the U.S. government, kept in a facility in solitary confinement. She went through the ringer, and by the way, she is still back in jail. Insanity, because she refuses to go after people. It's really amazing how brave she is, and to go through all that she's gone through, and still chooses to go through more to stand by her beliefs. And then, of course, there's like I said, Snowden and Assange. Of course, again, Assange was just being a journalist. So, I agree with that. Okay, anyway. Kira Jade says, if a whistleblower has info that Trump is using for connections to give him a leg up on the elections, then we the people should know about it. Absolutely agreed. Mr. Elder said, Snowden, too, he revealed our government is spying to us through our TVs, computers, and phones. Yep. Very, very extensive NSA spying apparatus, getting our metadata, etc. Insane stuff. And then Donald Savage, love the name, says, Assange is a cyber terrorist, then Trump, if Assange is a cyber terrorist, then Trump colluded with a terrorist. That's such a good point. That's why I love you guys. You guys have great, great points. So thank you for that. Okay. So now let's get back into the show here. And we'll go dig some coal. That's fun. Let me get the sidebar here. Yeah. I love that. All right. So President Trump went on a little bit of a strange, nonsensical rant about coal during an Oval Office conversation with Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison. So now when a reporter had asked Trump about the importance of Australia's mineral industry, he said this. Take a look.
Well, Australia's mineral industry is massive. It's far, far bigger than that. Very few countries have anything approaching what Australia has in terms of mineral wealth. And you've really taken advantage of it, and you've done it in a very environmentally sensitive way. I know that's very important to you. It's very important to Scott. We talk about it a lot because that business can get out of control a little bit from the standpoint of environment, and you have really approached it in an environmentally sensitive way. Coal, as an example, you're the leader of safety in coal digging, and we've actually studied it because we're doing a lot of coal. And you have very little. You almost have no, you used to have a thing, black lung disease, and in Australia, you almost don't have it anymore. You've got all of the dust down, and, they become wet mines, basically. The things that they've done environmentally with digging is a, when you talk minerals, it's about digging, and what you've been able to do with the environment, having to do with taking minerals out of the ground, including, and, you know, I would say even especially because you're leading on coal. I will tell you, I sent a whole crew over because your record is so good in terms of illnesses from digging, better than anybody in the world. So we're going to catch you on that.
Yikes. You know, when you talk minerals, it's about digging. Really? I did not know that. Thank you, Mr. President. Very stable genius, folks. Very stable. From the standpoint of digging. Oh my God. So here's the thing. So when he talks about coal, President Trump believes in clean coal. Now, that's not a real thing, right? I mean, it doesn't actually exist. There is no such thing as clean coal. And by the way, I'm going to explain what that is real quick. But first, Donald Trump believes, he actually thinks that you take the coal out of the ground and you clean it, and that somehow makes it better. We have the new technology. We have the clean coal. You take it out of the ground. No, your actual quote. They're going to take out clean coal, meaning they're taking out coal. They're going to clean it. Actual quote here. Like, how do you clean it? You're going to clean it with a washcloth? You like spray it down, hose it down? No, nonsense. No, what clean coal is, again, since it doesn't exist, it's actually a marketing term made by coal companies. It describes a process, right? Now, this process does not involve washing or cleaning the coal in any way. No, what it means is that it's essentially a different name for carbon capture technology. So you take the carbon and you capture it and you put it underground. Carbon capture and sequestration, that's what the whole process is called. The reason that they say, oh no, it's clean, is because it doesn't have emissions. Well, actually it does have emissions. It's just the emissions don't go into the air. But CCS technology is still in its infancy. And so we don't really have CCS technology that is practical and applicable. And besides, you would have to build new coal plants in order to do that. The problem with that is that it's incredibly expensive. And number two, coal is actually more expensive now with all the health risks and with all the environmental damage, et cetera, factored in, more expensive than wind, solar, and other forms of alternative energy. And so nobody wants to build new plants with carbon capture technology in it. That's why coal is literally dying as an industry. And no matter how much digging you want to do, or how much you try to actually prop up the coal industry, it's not going to work. You are not going to bring back coal. But Trump, like I said, he's an idiot. All he cares about is I'm being right. And I'm right when I say that you take out the coal and you literally you clean it, you scrub it, and you make sure it's nice and sparkling. Idiot. He has no idea what he's talking about, no idea what he's doing, and continues to embarrass himself in front of all world leaders. Okay. So let's go to a disastrous story. As if the rest of the show hasn't been disastrous enough, but hey, whatever. And then we'll end on a good note. All right. So recently, body cam footage was released of a white police officer antagonizing a black high school principal in front of his son. Now, why was that? Well, because he had the audacity to walk past a crime scene that didn't involve him. So I don't have the footage here, right? But it has been released. But let me just summarize the conversation that the officer had with this high school principal. And this man's name is Vance Benton, right? And so what was happening is he was basically walking with his son near a crime scene when the officer had asked if they were involved. The police officer reportedly said, "You guys weren't involved in all that, were you?" Now note that this was a domestic disturbance, right? This was a fight between a couple. And it happened to be a black couple. So, wait, he asks this guy, "Were you involved in this domestic dispute?" No, not at all. According to the Baltimore Star, Benton said he was a bystander who watched the cops arrest a person a block away from his house. He actually was driving by when it happened. He went and got his son. Actually, he was taking him back from, I think it was football practice or something, and said, hey, this is a good teachable moment on how you deal with police. So he brought his 15-year-old son to try to, show, not only show his son how you deal with the police, but also to make sure that the person that was arrested was treated fairly. So now, after he was asked if he was involved, he responded to the officer, why would you ask me that? I mean, again, that's rather accusatory, right? The officer said, well, it's because you're standing here. Well, you're here, so you must be involved. Anybody who's ever been near a crime scene then, or looked at an officer, or saw an accident, well, they must be involved, right? If you use that logic. I mean, you must be involved because you're watching. You're near it at the time. No, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, look, you can walk by, you can walk past, you can stand there, whatever. And in fact, Benton said that. He said, I can stand here. I'm a citizen. I pay taxes. I just told you I'm educating my son on how to deal with the police. And so, again, Benton said he thought he could teach his 15-year-old son lessons about how to stay out of trouble and deal with police. So, I mean, again, very important lessons. In fact, look, black people, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, have to have the talk with their kids on how to not get shot by police. I mean, again, this is sad and unfortunate that this has to happen. And even if you do everything right, by the way, think of Philando Castile, right? Philando Castile was a black legal gun owner, and he was shot by police despite following directions from the police and doing everything he was supposed to do. Complete and utter insanity. I mean, look, it's pretty shocking to me when I first found out the disparity in how people are treated. My experience versus the experience of a regular, African American, right? How different our experiences with the police really are. It is really, really shocking because, look, police are really nice to me. They're always nice. They're always respectful, right? But remember, not all experience is the same. Your mileage will definitely vary, as evidenced by this officer's reaction. Now, the officer said this, quote, "Let me educate you, sir. When we do a thorough investigation, we stop and talk to witnesses. Are you a witness?" Look, are you a witness? That's a fair question, right? Benton replied, "Ask me that first. Why would you ask me if I'm involved? Ask me if I'm a witness. If I'm a witness, I'm not involved." That makes complete and total sense. If you think that somebody's a witness, ask if you're a witness. Don't ask, hey, are you involved in this? No. And look, I think at this point, the officer realized that he was handling this kind of poorly and then doubled down because, he said this, quote, "Sir, people get away with crime because of people like you." And then told Benton's son, "Hopefully you find a good role model, okay? I wouldn't listen to this dude." Now, that was, again, super rude, but hey, thankfully nobody got shot, right? Nobody got shot. Nobody got beaten. So that's good, right? I mean, when you look at this situation, when you look at a lot of situations where African Americans, men specifically, go up against police and disrespect them just the tiniest bit, usually someone gets hurt. Now, in this case, that didn't happen. However, the officer did follow them home, or at least a short time. So they were still kind of harassed. Unacceptable, right? So, of course, afterwards, Benton said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to file a report with the department. And so he did. He also told county officials that he had never been subject to, quote, "such degradation, disrespect, and humiliation." So that ended up leading to an investigation into the incident, and it led to disciplinary action. What that was we're not exactly sure. Let me give you a quote here from the Baltimore Sun. The investigation determined that the officer was in violation of the department rules and regulations and said that corrective administration action will be initiated. Again, no details on what that is or no details on who the officer really was. So we'll see what happens. Maybe just a slap on the wrist. I don't know. But you shouldn't be treated like a criminal because of the color of your skin. I think it's fairly obvious right now, but this is what profiling is, plain and simple. And I think it's why police should be trained to combat implicit bias. In a lot of circumstances, that bias gets people killed. Now, thankfully, didn't happen here, thank goodness, but far too often, those biases, stereotypes, and ignorance do lead to terrible outcomes. And so we need to watch ourselves. The police definitely need to have some training, some better training, and just do better when it comes to dealing with racial minorities, especially ones who haven't done anything. Okay. One more story here, and we'll probably end early. Now, Senator Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign just made political history. On Thursday, the campaign reported that it received campaign donations from 1 million individuals. So now that's pretty amazing. And they are the first campaign this primary season to reach 1 million individual donors. And they did it sooner than any other campaign has. So that's important because it really does show that there is major people power behind his campaign. So let's get to more details here. Out of the more than 1 million individuals who have now given, according to the campaign, only 0.5% have given the maximum amount to this election cycle. Now that's important, right? Only 0.5%. Right now, I believe the maximum that you can give is about $2,700. And that's in the primary, and then an additional $2,700 during the general campaign. So those are your campaign limits for individuals, right? Now, if you're a super PAC and do independent expenditures, well, you can give unlimited amounts of money, and it's usually dark money. So, but these are real people. These are not political action committees. These are not corporate PACs. These are, again, you and me, right? And so 99.95% are able to give again and give multiple times. Again, super important, right? Now, the campaign also announced that it has more than 125,000 people signed up for recurring contributions each month. So that's a steady stream of income that the campaign says will provide a constant stream of reliable investment that will last throughout the campaign and build the organization required to win the nomination and defeat Donald Trump. So now, who are the people giving to Bernie? Well, this is really important too. Turns out the biggest donors to Senator Sanders are teachers. That's right, teachers. And the most common employer to those donating to Bernie Sanders are workers that work at Walmart, Starbucks, and Amazon. Those are the biggest employer, the most common employers for people giving to Senator Sanders. That's amazing. Now, I like how Starbucks is in there, right? Take that, Howard Schultz. You remember him? He was running. And then he's like, ooh, yeah, turns out not going to run against Bernie. Or not going to run against Biden because he still thinks Biden is going to button this thing up. I don't know about that. I don't know, man. We'll see. But look, that's not surprising to see these people donating to Bernie Sanders. In fact, Bernie was the guy who pressured Amazon and Walmart into raising worker pay. Bernie's had their back, and now they've got Bernie's back. I love it. So now, Fez Shakir, who's the campaign manager for Senator Sanders, said this in a statement. With 1 million contributors, this is the only Democratic campaign that has more supporters than Donald Trump. A point that I think Trump will get rather upset about. He then said, our strength is in numbers, and that's why Bernie Sanders is the only candidate who was able to say his campaign will rely only on grassroots funding in both the primary and against Donald Trump. I sense a slight dig at Elizabeth Warren. I'll explain in a minute. Like all campaigns, we are beholden to our donors, and we're proud to stand with 1 million working people. So now, I mentioned Elizabeth Warren, right? Look, she and other candidates said, we're not going to take corporate donations. A lot of those people have backtracked. Now, Elizabeth Warren is still taking, is not taking corporate money in the primary, right? But she did say, I'm open to it in the general. So now, why did all those other campaigns, and you also had Kamala Harris, you have Pete Buttigieg. I think Pete Buttigieg is still not taking, no, he might be taking corporate money. Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke, to be fair, is still not taking corporate cash, right? But a lot of these campaigns who have promised it had to backtrack. Why? It's because there's not enough money. Turns out campaigns are super expensive, and they do not have the kind of engaged donor base that Bernie Sanders has and has worked to set up for the last several years. They do not have his infrastructure, and they do not have his energy. Even Elizabeth Warren, again, Elizabeth Warren does not take corporate money in the primary, but she says she has to be open to it in the general election if she becomes the nominee. Now, that I assume is from not wanting to unilaterally disarm. So that's look. When if the campaign gives that excuse of, hey, look, I know, right? I don't want to take corporate donations, but look at the Republicans. Yeah, but you don't want to become the Republicans. That's the problem. And so there's this level of trust, right? Where it's like, if you start taking corporate money, well, then we know you're not going to represent us, because we've seen that from too many politicians. So it was a really, really bad miscalculation on Elizabeth Warren's part to come out and say, I am open to corporate money. No, you don't say that. And so right there, the fact that Bernie Sanders takes no corporate PAC money, will never accept corporate PAC money, and now has 1 million individual donors and 125,000 recurring donors, and over 99% of his donors can continue to give more in the general election and as the primary goes on. And by the way, he's got a lot of money on hand, a lot of cash on hand. So that shows that he's in a really good position. Bernie's the obvious choice. I mean, he's also got 1 million donors. Obvious choice. Not only that, but he's got high early polling in a lot of the states, the early primary states, and he's got very solid, easily explained, detailed policy positions. How could Bernie Sanders not be the obvious choice to take on Donald Trump? No, he totally is. And add in the fact that it's teachers and working people who are his biggest contributors, not oil companies, not corporations, not wealthy donors and bundlers and individuals. That says something really important. That says that he is the candidate for the 99% and that he will fight for us. Okay. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Much appreciated. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Like our videos. Subscribe to the channel as well. Hit the bell twice for notifications. Thank you guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend.